Rightio. On
Mm.
to Venom: The Last Dance.
I did not manage to get to go see this in time, unfortunately. I don't know. Well,
I
maybe not, unfortunately.
no, see, I have complicated feelings about this film.
Okay. That's better than Madam Web.
Yes. Oh,
Better, stronger
absolutely.
start than Madam Web.
I think if you go to this film
Hmm.
expecting, and I know we've said this a million times, comic book movies isn't a genre, and we need to stop treating it like a genre. However, it is treated
Yep.
like a genre. So if you go into this expecting a comic book movie, whatever your idea of that genre is in your head, I think you're going to come out going, this is a bad film.
Okay.
Or a really bad film, even.
Oh, okay.
If you go into this not knowing what genre you're expecting,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to have a good time.
Okay.
The story is a mess.
In classic Sony fashion.
Yes. There is very little exposition. It doesn't make a lot of sense. They kind of break their own rules on a number of occasions.
So, yep, Sony to a T.
On the flip side of it, Tom Hardy, as always, is fucking phenomenal, both as Eddie and Venom.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of B plot he goes on with a hippie family he bumps into on his journey is genuinely heartwarming.
Mm.
There's a lot, there's a lot of this film
Mm-hmm.
that I really adore. The best way I think I can put it is they managed to capture the difficult parts of a comic book story really well. But the bits that you would think would be easier, like the action storyline and the overarching important story, was where it seemed to go wrong.
Do you think that is because Tom Hardy has proven he has been pretty solid as his role in Venom, understands the character, and we enjoy him as Venom, that like the stuff you've talked about with the heartwarming, like he is able to sell very well. That
Tom
this
Hardy absolutely acts up the script.
so yeah, so if you were to take the stuff that obviously is all the other stuff, which is clearly Sony, I'm presuming we're setting up future films as well.
Yes.
It's just their usual pile of mess that they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. So, the basic plot starts off in a rocky area because it's trying to resolve the whole. At the end of Venom 2, he goes to a different universe and then he comes back to
Yeah.
his universe. So, the first kind of 5 minutes in that regard are a fucking mess that I still don't fully understand.
Well, isn't it them trying to retroactively take back what they did in Far No Way Home or whatever, Far From Home?
No, not really.
Oh.
It just kind of re-shows him getting teleported back to his universe in a weird way.
Oh.
It's weird.
Okay.
He's in Mexico. He's on the run
Right.
for what happened at the end of Venom 2.
Right.
And he's like, I know a guy in New York. Let's get to New York, clear our name, and start our life. That's his plan. I don't know why we bother with that.
Okay.
I get that at the start, it seems to just be to get him moving,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't feel like they needed to do that.
Fair.
So the entire idea is Null is in an alien prison
Right.
created by the symbiotes.
Uh-huh.
They went, yeah, you're our creator, but you're a dick. We're locking you in prison.
Right. Okay.
Yeah?
Yep.
The key to the prison is a codex. A codex is created when a symbiote and its host fully merge which happens when the host dies and is revived by the symbiote,
Okay.
which is what happened at the end of Venom 1, when he dies and then Venom saves him.
Oh, yeah.
So that creates a codex.
Okay.
I don't know how it's taken Null so long to send his goons after the codex.
Maybe
That
he
seems a
didn't.
bit strange.
Maybe he didn't know it was made yet.
That doesn't seem to make sense, and I'll explain why in a
Okay.
minute. What I will say is, although these films have taken place over 7 years for us and Tom Hardy is clearly older,
Hmm.
it seems to have only taken place in canon in about a year.
Oh.
Which does kind of make sense because of how chaotic it's been.
Yeah.
And it actually does kind of cover up how much Tom Hardy's aged, because you're like, you know what? If I had this alien living inside my body, I would probably have got a bit grey from stress in a year as well.
Yeah. I mean, they could have just chucked a bit of hair down.
So we've got these xenophages. They're basically massive alien dog things,
Right. Classic.
and their job is to hunt down the codex and return it to Null.
Got you.
And this is why I struggle to believe it's taken a year, because anytime Venom is in full form,
Hmm.
it basically sends off like a homing beacon to these xenophages.
Oh.
So they are blind, apart from to the codex. So when the codex is hidden, i.e. they're in eddy form,
Mm-hmm.
the thing can't see anything.
Okay.
So bearing in mind he died at the end of Venom 1,
Uh-huh.
and then we had an entire film, I don't know how the xenophages have only just become a problem.
My only thing to that would be at the start of the second film, wasn't he kind of hiding Venom?
Yeah, but he still used Venom a fuck ton throughout the film.
True. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But if you're saying this timeline is like a year, that could have been a few weeks. Like,
maybe I don't quite see it.
I think, yeah, the timelines are getting a bit messy already.
And it is a bit nitpicky, but when the story is the mess that it is, yeah. So then we also had, do you remember the police officer from the first two films who was deaf? Played by the
Vaguely.
Liverpudlian British actor.
Vaguely.
Something Mulligan, or it might be the character was Mulligan. Venom, The Last Dance, cast. Stephen Graham.
Oh, yeah.
Is the actor.
Yeah.
Yeah? So, he is who Eddie's accused of murdering at the end of 2. Obviously, he didn't kill him. It's just that's the way it looked.
Mm-hmm.
He's not dead.
Classic.
A secret government facility, Area 55, which is hidden underneath Area 51.
Is it 4 floors down, by any chance?
It is directly below. Flies in his dead body, and they put a symbiote in it.
Okay.
And that creates, although he's not called that,
Toxin. Yeah.
Who's kind of this like czar for the government, like warning of the fact that Null is coming and he's looking for a codex.
Okay.
What I don't understand is how when Graham is dying and Toxin is created, clearly that kind of resurrected him. So how is there not a codex there?
Yeah. That's exactly
I might have
what
just missed something, but that seems weird to me.
I suppose it depends if he fully died.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if they just kept him in like a cryogenic stable-ish condition.
Yeah.
And Toxin just like healed him rather than revived him.
I get you, yeah.
But again, it's not very well explained.
Sony.
We've got scientists working in the lab and military working in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
So they play the very generic, all scientists just want to learn, all military just want to fight. Mm-hmm. I don't inherently have an issue with that. Yeah, it's tropey, but it's a trope that does work.
Mm.
The scientist is a scientist because when she was young, her brother died by getting struck by lightning while they were running on the beach together, and her brother wanted to be a scientist. As part of that lightning strike, she lost control of her arm because they were holding hands when he got struck by lightning.
Sounds like she should have been a meteorologist, not a scientist.
Well, no, I like what she's working on. Like he wanted to go to space and work with aliens, so that's how she got into this.
Okay.
And then there's another scientist who likes to wear Christmas trees as like badges. It feels like they had great ideas for these characters, but they were just nods to the comic book and not really expanded upon.
Okay.
Like genuinely. Like let me. Her name is. No, it's the actress. What's the character name here? Sadie Christmas. Let me Google Sadie Christmas quickly and see if I'm missing something here. Because I shit you not, this is the kind of level of information we were getting. No, there's like nothing. So they were building her up as if like I was sat there as someone who does know a lot of obscure comic characters, or be like, they built her up, and I'm like, this is clearly an obscure character. I don't know. I'll Google them later.
Yeah.
But there was never anything substantial there. And they've found a lot of symbiotes and they're studying them. And we've got like all of the colours.
Ah.
And like, cool, we're gonna get like a symbiote team up. Sweet. Eddie the entire time is just trying to get to New York. He gets attacked. Venom explains about null and xenophages so that Eddie knows what the fuck's going on. But Eddie's entire plan is still, okay, let's just get to New York and go from there. Because he doesn't have a fucking clue what he's dealing with. Then they start getting chased by the military once the military know what. They're looking for Eddie as well, because they know he has a symbiote and he's a fugitive. They pick him up on some facial imagery and they go try and get him. As a result, Venom comes out, which lights up the codex. So the xenophage arrives and decimates a bunch of people.
Right.
As a result, Venom jumps off of Eddie to try and keep Eddie safe, and so the codex disappears.
Got you.
But that obviously leaves Eddie exposed, and they're trying to arrest him. So at one point, Eddie shoots a military dude in the head, which is the first time Eddie has actually taken a life, I believe.
Oh.
Which, again, kind of gets built up for a second. It gets like a moment of like, oh my god, what have I done? That very quickly gets brushed over.
Okay.
It genuinely feels like they shot this film in about 9 different ways, and random bits were left in for a different version, which just muddies it a lot.
I mean, it just sounds like the typical Sony mess of not really knowing what they're doing.
Do you remember when The Flash came out and I was like, the core of this film has a really good idea that they just refuse to deliver on?
Yes.
I feel a similar way.
Which comes back to writing.
Yeah.
Writing or
absolutely.
writers having their hands tied by some things that Sony want in and not.
I genuinely do not think there is many, if any, other actors on planet Earth that could have acted this script up enough to make this actually enjoyable, because it was. Don't get me wrong, I know I'm ragging on things. I'm sat here. While I was sat there watching it, I did enjoy it. Yeah, I was like, that's a bit weird, that doesn't make any sense. But I was still overall enjoying it. It was an enjoyable film to watch. This trilogy very much exists, like I was saying in our preview of it, as that trilogy that, yeah, you watching it like, it's not good, but like, fuck, isn't it fun? Yeah, they're big, gooey aliens that can do weird shit, kicking ass and going crazy. They make a big deal later on for like the final battle of the other symbiotes being freed and like jumping on random scientists.
Right.
But they don't elaborate on that.
It's gonna come down the line.
No, they all die.
Oh.
Apart from one. Which is... I did recognise the design. I think it's Lasher, but it might have been Scream. I can't remember which. And that symbiote bonds with the doctor lady whose arm doesn't work.
All right, yeah.
and that symbiote has like super speed, and it like jolts her arm back into work. I don't know if it's just in symbiote form or full stop, but her arm works again. So I don't know if they're setting up like Lasher films. Again, it feels like they had. Imagine they've written, because like no film is just like one story that would be done. You've got subplots, you've got B plots, C plots, etc. It feels like they had 10 plots, and they were like, "That's too many. We need to cut some of these." And they ended up cutting most of them, but they couldn't cut it completely, so they had to cut around it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like there was supposed to be a bigger plot around both of the scientists, the general, this family we interacted with, and the other symbiotes. And we just get bits and pieces of all of them that never gets paid off.
Do you know?
And
that's just
the
Sony,
weirdest thing, Sony made the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And they cast, I forget the actor's name, to play Lizard in the first one. He's in this film. Everyone assumed he was playing Lizard because of the way Sony have done stuff. Yeah. He wasn't. He was just a random hippie dad for the hippie family.
I mean, I'm not even surprised from Sony anymore.
I know I'm sitting here and I'm just pointing out all these insane batshit weird decisions. The film was fun.
It sounds like what I expected it to be, which is it's going to be a good end. It's a good end for Eddie, like Tom Hardy's Venom, and that little trilogy. But because Sony wants it to fit into this bigger Sony-Verse that is just a mess at the moment, it causes this to be messy.
Do you know what I genuinely think? And this is going to be hilarious, bearing in mind that I've just said it's not as unhinged as it sounds. Would you like to know the most unhinged scene?
Oh, no.
So they make it to Vegas.
Right.
And they have like $20.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to a casino to try and gamble and make some more money to try and get to New York. So after beating the shit out of a random dude to steal his suit, who, in all fairness, it turns out the guy in the suit was Tom Hardy's stunt double, which I did quite like when I found that out. So they go in. Venom instantly becomes a gambling addict. He's like, no, I watched Rain Man. I know how to gamble now. He goes over to a slot machine and just cranks it. And he's like, Eddie, I need more money. I'm out of money. Then they hear a massive cheer because someone's just won the jackpot. And it's Mrs. Chen. Yes. So then Mrs. Chen goes, I've been here gambling all week. I've made so much money. They've given me a penthouse. Which is a thing. If you're gambling like a lot of money in Las Vegas, they will comp you basically anything. She's like, I've got an insane room. Come up with me to clean yourself up. And you know what? Apart from the fact that Miss Chen magically being there at the right time happened, Eddie going, you know what? A shower sounds amazing. Makes complete sense right now. He's had a really rough, 24 hours. So you go up to the room, and Mrs. Chen has a jukebox in a room. She starts playing some music. She's like, I love to dance. They know that a xenophage is chasing them, and anytime they go full Venom form, it can see them, no matter how far away they are.
Oh, no.
For some reason, Eddie agrees to let Venom come out to do a dance with Mrs. Chen.
Right.
And this directly leads to the xenophage wreaking havoc in Las Vegas. And once again, the government have tracked them down again, which leads to them being captured to go to the super secret facility. And while they're at the super secret facility, the hippie family happen to arrive because the reason the hippie family are on their trip is Area 51 is being decommissioned and destroyed. So the hippie dude who loves aliens wants to go down and see Area 51 before it's destroyed.
This sounds like
means
the
this hippie
typical
family
Sony mess.
Which means this hippie family almost gets killed by a xenophage because they've snuck into Area 51 before it gets destroyed, just as the fight erupts from underneath the ground of Area 55.
I mean, this just sounds like all the other Sony messes, story-wise.
It's
Like, it's
insanity.
just all over the place.
I want to watch this film again, very, very drunk.
Fair.
Because I feel like...
Maybe you'll understand it then. Maybe that's why.
There is a part of my brain, no matter how small it is, going, this is an art style that you can't comprehend. There is something here.
You've got to be drunk.
The performance of Tom Hardy genuinely at times makes me think. There was like 3 or 4 times throughout the film where Tom Hardy has a really amazing scene, and I'm like, right, here we go. We're about to get something really cool here. And it just doesn't quite work. And it ends, spoiler alert, the xenophages corner them. There's nothing they can do. The only way to make it so they can't get the codex is for them to separate and stay away from each other. Yeah? So what happens is Venom kind of lies to Eddie and is like, oh, we're going to fight him in a blaze of glory. So they go out there to get all the xenophages that have arrived to come and get them. And then Venom jumps off of Eddie and kind of takes over a xenophage, which I don't know why none of the other symbiotes try to do this at any point, but whatever. And then he essentially grabs them all and drags them over to an acid bath that got established in the first 15 minutes of the film randomly. The only thing where they've established something really weird and paid it off, by the way, was this acid bath.
Fucking hell.
And the general, who's been trying to kill Eddie for ages because Eddie killed one of his soldiers, forgetting the xenophages which killed dozens of his soldiers, uses his eyes, because it's a retina scanner, to launch the acid bath to try and kill the xenophages. We'll ignore the fact that these xenophages have been blown up, chopped to pieces, and they always reconstitute. Acid is the way to deal with them, apparently.
Everything's got a weakness.
Yeah. So eventually they die in quite a gruesome death scene that takes a weirdly long amount of time. And then Eddie goes to New York and is kind of living a normal life, and we get like a song, the best days of our life. I think it's Green Day or something. As he's and we just get like a montage of the 3 films as he's like clearly reminiscing on his time with Venom. But a lot of the clips are from 15 minutes ago in this film.
That honestly, you recalling this film makes you sound drunk.
I sound fucking batshit insane. But I actually genuinely, and this is going to sound hilarious if you've got this far through this, I recommend watching it.
I mean, I can see that I can see how this is an enjoyable film, and in the context of the trilogy, and like outside of all the Sony-Verse stuff, like just for the Venom stuff, I can see you somewhat enjoying it. Like you say, like that era of superhero films, it's a bit wacky. Just don't question shit.
Exactly that. You know what it is? It's the perfect training film to get your brain to suspend disbelief a little bit better. People have got too nitpicky with stuff, as we've discussed before, and they're not very good at suspending their disbelief anymore. I think this film is like should be used as a training tool of just like don't question it. Because if you don't question it, you're gonna have so much fucking fun.
Well, yeah, people have got too used to wanting to know why something is, like, with every detail. Like, what's that? Why is that? Like, and now, yeah. I mean, do you think the Sony-Verse is going to continue?
Yes.
Is it going to rely on Craven?
I don't think so.
Oh.
That's my early prediction.
Oh, here we go.
Is they are going to use Spider-Man 4 to give Tom to set up Tom Holland getting the symbiote in Secret Wars.
Oh, okay.
As he did in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to create a new codex, and then Null is going to come after that codex, and you're going to have Spider-Man fighting Null.
So you think they're going to join forces, Marvel?
I think that is their. I think that's Sony's plan. I don't see any other logical way to do this unless the random symbiote human that happened at the end with the doctor lady, where they didn't even name the symbiote. I think it's Lasher. Unless they decide to try and make a Lasher trilogy work, and then they make Lasher fight Null, it makes zero sense otherwise.
I don't think Sony's smart enough to team up with Marvel.
Neither do I, but that's the only thing that makes sense right now.
I see a world where it becomes all reliant on Craven, and we just get some trilogy of Craven films where he's hunting, and it's going to lead up to him hunting Null.
But Null's in prison. They need to get Null out of prison first.
This is Sony.
Which can only happen with the Codex.
Yeah, but you say this, but Sony will just have a film and be like, Null's out.
Yeah, I just...
They'll be like, Null's out, and you'll be like, but what about the Codex thing? What Codex thing?
Either that, or, and this is possible, they decide to bring Andrew Garfield Spider-Man back as the Sony-Verse Spider-Man. Because people will turn up and pay for that, and Sony know they will. Although Andrew Garfield won't say yes unless he thinks it's a good script. I do trust him on that.
I was going to say, I don't think...
And they try and get him to do the symbiote story and fight Null.
I don't think he'd come back for that sort of storyline.
He would if the script is good.
I don't know.
See, here's the funny thing, and like, I don't want this to sound like a dig, so please, if it does, don't take it that way.
Okay.
I think you view Andrew Garfield as the incredible actor he is, and the Oscar-nominated actor, and the guy who's done all them amazing films. My first introduction to Andrew Garfield, who I genuinely believe is one of the greatest actors of his generation, was in them Spider-Man films, and how excited he was to be Spider-Man, and how excited he is every time he gets reminded he was once Spider-Man. If Sony come to him with a script where he gets to be Black Suit Spider-Man and fight Null, and he believes the script is good, he will take it. But the good news is, because he's such a good actor, if he thinks the script is good enough, it is actually good enough.
Don't get me wrong, like, one of my first introductions was him as Spider-Man. But I'm more of like, I think that he will be... It's been a while, and I know he still looks back on those films. It's like, he loved playing Spider-Man. He loves when people ask him about it, like, and he has so much love for the other two. I just think he's not very easily... Like, the longer it goes, the less likely is he going to want to mess with that chapter.
I completely agree.
I don't believe Sony can make a good enough script for him.
Do you know what I think Sony should do if they are desperate to make a Spider-Man film with Andrew Garfield and they want to make a fuckload of money? They take the ongoing Ultimate Spider-Man comic, which they don't have rights to, but they find a way to make it work, of Peter Parker being married with kids at the start, and they make that story with Andrew Garfield now that he's an older dude. He still looks young, but he's like in his 40s now. And they do that, and that they will make more money than God himself would know what to do with.
I mean, if they really want to do... if Sony had their head on straight, they could... Exactly. They could have... If they don't want to work on a... like, with the Marvel and Tom Holland and, like, can't agree on what... and they want more control, they could have bounced off the last Spider-Man film with Andrew Garfield returning to his world universe, and they could have made a run, like just taken that and run with it a little bit with the right script and stuff, doing stuff like you say. Maybe he's older. Maybe like they could have capitalized off that instead of the mess that they have created in the Sony-Verse. But this is Sony. I'm at a point now, and I'm not. I know we shouldn't fully believe conspiracies and stuff, but I'm getting to a point where I believe that Sony doesn't actually care if they make a good Spider-Man film. They're just pumping them out so that Marvel can't have the full rights.
That is exactly what it is. At this point, they are just protecting their rights.
And I think they won't do anything with Andrew Garfield because that'll cost them too much and too much time and effort to get a good script to try and get him on board. They can just keep pumping out half-assed messes of a film.
See, here's the thing, like, how much is Sony worth as a company? I know it's fucking ridiculous. Sony value. Sony
Films.
No, because it all comes under Sony. You got to view it as Sony.
True.
Sony. What would it? It's not value. It's net worth. Yeah, Sony's worth 107 billion. The Sony Group. Do you know how much it would cost to get them to give up Spider-Man IP? Everyone's like, just buy the IP back. It's not that easily done.
Oh no, Sony, and here's the thing. Sony knows what value that is to Disney. They're not going to just like let it go.
In the modern era, I genuinely believe the Spider-Man, and bearing in mind it's just Spider-Man film rights, and I believe TV rights, not the comic book rights, not the video game rights. Like the Spider-Man video games, everyone assumes it's a Sony exclusive because they own Spider-Man. It's not. They still had to get that from Marvel, I believe. I genuinely believe just the rights they have for Spider-Man is worth well over 20 billion.
Probably.
And I believe they've given Disney the opportunity to buy that rights for about that amount, and Disney have gone, we can't justify that. And I get why they can't justify that. But I also don't think Sony are like overvaluing it. Could you imagine how much more money the MCU would make if it had complete creative control over Spider-Man?
This is what I agree. I think they have the value of Spider-Man, which is a solid amount. I think they are trying to then charge Disney above that because they're like, oh, yes, this is the value of Spider-Man IP, but for you to have the Spider-Man IP amongst all of the Marvel, this is the value it adds to you. So this is like, what it, like.
It's like one of the Monopoly trades.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, but if I give you this green, you're going to have all greens.
Yeah.
That means it's worth more than the face value because you're going to be able to build properties.
That is 100%. It's like, this is the final property in your set. This is like, yes, this is what it's worth. This is what the set's worth. So we're meeting you in the middle, and Marvel's going, yeah, but that's not how much it's worth. And they go, well,
I genuinely think that's why they went and got Fox. Yeah. Because with Fox, they got Fantastic Four and X-Men, which are two of their biggest other IPs, but they could also justify it to Disney because Disney gets all of the sports stuff that goes along with that, all the news stuff that goes along with that, which has value in and of itself. So they're like, yeah, you buy Fox and you get the stuff that you want from Fox, and then we get the stuff we want. And that can also, because we then have kind of more power about the comic book movie distribution, we can maybe put a little bit more pressure on Sony because we can kind of go, well, we don't need Spider-Man. We've got Wolverine again now. Like that kind of vibe.
Part of me is now at the point where I think Sony, just out of spite, are half-assing these films purely just to hold on to it.
I will give them the credit that I don't think it's spite. I think it's an element of that I genuinely believe Sony have gone, we will give you back the film rights we have for this amount of money. And Disney have gone, we're not going to pay that. And they were, well, we will make sure that these rights don't elapse. And we don't care about the quality. But the weird thing about that is the amount of money they're still spending on the films.
Yeah, but this is also Sony who threw, what was it, like million to a fucking game that just shut down after 7 days. Like,
Yeah, true.
Sony will burn money for the sake of it if they want to. I actually think you're kind of on part, like the right wavelength of. They've said this is how much it's worth if you want to buy this off us. Marvel's like, what the fuck? That's way too high, and they've gone, fine, not going to get it back any other way, and they're now kind of. They don't give a shit if they're half-assing these films, and it makes Spider-Man look bad, because that also then adds pressure on Marvel to get to the point of like, okay, this is now starting to make us look bad because people are associating us with like they're trying to pressure them to buy.
There are an ungodly amount of people, I promise you, and I know we won't feel like it because everyone we talk to kind of understands it, that do not understand that the Sony Marvel films are not MCU films.
Oh, there'll be plenty of people that don't get that.
More than not, I would like in the general public, when you consider how much money like Endgame made, the people who watched them films will not, like the majority, 60-70% of them people will not understand the difference between made in association with Marvel and just Marvel Studios is a massive distinction.
They'll just say it's like, oh, why do these characters not get to like associate with the other ones? Like, why have they not been in the Avengers films yet and stuff? Like,
and that would have only got worse when Tom Hardy made a cameo in No Way Home.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I mean, Sony, what can we do?
But yeah, if you've got however much it costs for a cinema ticket in your local area and you want to have a weird fun time, I do actually recommend Venom: The Last Dance.
Down a bottle of tequila and then go watch it.
Honestly, yeah, do it.
Drink responsibly.
Let's get some nerdy news.
Yes, let's.
And other alcohol brands are available. You don't have to drink tequila.
I mean, tequila's not. It's not a radio.